Okay, hello. My name is Admiral Six Toes, and obviously I am going to start this YouTube channel today, and we're going to start to discuss things that I give a shit about, because I care about a few things. One of them being the Giants. They just drafted Jalen Hyatt today, and a really important center position, so I'm very excited coming back from work today. Saw that at work, and I was very jumping for joy, if you will. So obviously there's a UFC card tomorrow, so I think that would be the most appropriate thing to start off with. I'll be uploading some One Piece content, probably maybe in the morning or tomorrow afternoon or something. Tonight I just probably just don't want to do it because I'm already uploading one video probably. So first fight that I want to discuss here would be the Cody Durden Charles Johnson fight. I'm not going to go through all of the fights because most of them are pretty lame. This card is pretty lame. Probably a pretty lame card to start out with here for myself. But, you know, I decided to do it today, and you know what? We're running with it. So the first fight I'm going to talk about is Cody Durden versus Charles Johnson. A lot to think about in this matchup because both guys are in a division where it's tough pickings. You really have to shine to get that ranked fight, or else you're just going to keep fighting these bottom-of-the-barrel guys, and I think that's something that Charles Johnson can do in this fight. I'm a big Charles Johnson guy. Ever since he fought Mikhaev in his first fight in the UFC, I thought that he had real potential just because Mikhaev was thought of so highly in the UFC coming up, and he performed really well. He's a really good jiu-jitsu fighter, and he had a knockout against Jimmy Flick, I believe, 2 fights ago, I believe. So he's clearly got the power. He's got the submission skills. He's a very well-rounded fighter, and for the division, he's absolutely enormous. I believe. Hold on, I'll look up how tall he is. I mean, 5'8" doesn't seem enormous for the division, but at 125, 5'8" is very, very big, considering there is not a lot of 5'8" guys in the division. I think champ Davison Figueiredo was only like 5'4". I think Brandon Moreno might be 5'7", maybe 5'7", if that. Either way, Charles Johnson is a really tough fighter, and I think he might be taller than 5. I don't know why I'm harping on the 5'8" issue, but short kings. But he does have really good knockout power because of his size, and it really helps him scare people, and maybe people might want to take him down, and that's where they get kind of summoned into his jiu-jitsu skills, which are top tier as well. Cody Durden, don't get me wrong, is a very well-rounded fighter as well. He's got great striking, and he's on a 3-fight win streak right now, I believe. So he's really working his way up the division. But I feel like this is Charles Johnson time to show that he deserves to be in that bottom tier of the top 15, and I think that he can get a fight there if he wins tomorrow, and I really truly believe that he will, because he is a really skilled fighter, and I think that it's just a matter of opportunity for him. So with that being said, I'm going with Charles Johnson for tomorrow. You can put your bets on him, just don't blame me if they fail. I think Cody Durden's a really good fighter as well, and if he wins, he definitely deserves a top 15 shot, because I mean he would be on a 4-fight win streak at that point, and I don't think that you can say that for much of the flyweight division. Guys on a 4-fight win streak, so definitely deserves a top 15 fight. He has a little bit more ruggedness in the UFC. I think he has maybe 6 or 7 fights in the UFC, so he's been here for a little bit. So he definitely deserves a top 15 if he wins tomorrow. But I'm riding with Charles Johnson. I got a real funny feeling that he's gonna pull out something really crazy, maybe a knockout, maybe a submission. But I think that it will cause him to be a top 15 fighter after this. I really do. So next fight we're gonna move on to is going to be Martin Buday versus Jake Collier. Now, this is a fight. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, there is no bigger supporter in the entire goddamn world than this guy of Jake Collier. And guess what? He stabs me in the heart every fight. Every fight, this man stabs me in the heart because I know he's got the skills to be a bottom 15 heavyweight, a ranked heavyweight. And what does he do every single fight? He just looks like he has no idea how to game plan, how to strategize. He just goes in there and throws leather to face. And that can be a good thing, but for him, it's a complete detriment because his skills are incredible. Decent ground game. I've seen him submit guys before. I can't tell you who he submitted. I'll look it up right now. But he does have a submission on his record, which is incredible for a heavyweight, because how many heavyweights could you say have submissions on the record? He submitted Chase Sherman. Okay, all right. I take that back. He submitted Chase Sherman, who is, I guess you could say, a foof, a turd, possibly the worst person on the active UFC roster. Him and Jared Vanderaa. I think they both fought Martin Buday and Jake Collier, and both of them have lost to both of those guys. Both of them, I really think that if you're Chase Sherman or you are Jared Vanderaa, then you should be cut from the UFC. It's a miracle that you haven't at this point. I think they've lost about six times more than they've won. So the fact that they're still holding on to their UFC contracts is actually incredible to me. I think that the UFC just holds them there just so that their Dana White Contender Series fighters can come up and absolutely knock the head off of them. That's really my only excuse for Dana for keeping them around. Jake Collier and Martin Buday, I believe, have beat both of them. And that doesn't really have a whole lot of, it doesn't really hold a whole lot to this fight because Martin Buday didn't even finish them. I believe Jake Collier finished. Chase Sherman, maybe not. But then you look, Chase Sherman, or Jake Collier, in that last fight, Chris Barnett knocked out Jake Collier. So sometimes I just feel like I'm being bamboozled with Jake Collier. He'll come into a fight and look really good, and then he'll come into a fight and look like shit against Chris Barnett. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And trust me, he's had his rough go of it. Jake Collier has, because I thought he won that Andre Arlovski fight, and I thought he won that Carlos Felipe fight. And the fact that he almost beats both Andre Arlovski and Carlos Felipe, but then gets knocked out by Chris Barnett, really hurts me inside. I really want this guy to get a win tomorrow, and if he doesn't, then I'm officially hopping off the Jake Collier train. If he does, though, I'm back on it. I'm riding front seat. I'm choo-chooing. I'm the conductor at that point. I think I'm the only Jake Collier fan in the entire world. So, I'm running with Jake Collier tomorrow just because Martin Buday couldn't even finish Chase Sherman or Jared Vanderaa. So I feel like he did beat Lucas Brzeski, the Dana White Contender Series recent guy, heavyweight, but it was indecision. He hasn't finished a guy yet. I'm really not high on Martin Buday currently, but fucking I mean, just Jake Collier has not done anything for me thus far, so I might as well. I don't even know. I'm riding with Jake Collier. That's all I'm gonna say. If he loses, then you guys should know that I am a ride or die for Jake Collier, and that's not my fault. We're going to jump around a little bit here, and I'm going to jump to next fight, or not next fight, but because the next fight is that Josh Quinlan versus Trey Waters, I think the guy's name is. Josh Quinlan, I haven't seen a lot from. Trey Waters, I haven't seen any from. Josh Quinlan obviously had a first-round knockout against Jason Witt, but Jason Witt, Jason Witt is not that great of a fighter, and a knockout in the first round doesn't show me a lot of ability. I think he was in Dana White's Contender Series, and I vaguely remember his fight, but I'm just going to skip it and assume Josh Quinlan probably will win, and hopefully it'll jumpstart a little bit of a run here. Maybe, hopefully, a knockout, another first-round knockout win. Maybe he can get a really big fight next and, you know, show me a little bit more of his skills. I think that would be pretty, or show me some skills tomorrow. I'd love it. Then I'd actually be able to focus on him. But we're going to jump into a pretty important fight. Marcos Rogerio de Lima versus Waldo Acosta Cortez, or Cortez Acosta, or whatever the hell his name is. He's a Dana White Contender Series guy. And another thing that concerns me is that I think I might have been mistaken between him and Martin Buday. I think I am. Waldo Cortez Acosta is the guy who couldn't finish Chase Sherman and Jared Vanderaa. And he's a Dana White Contender Series guy. Got the contract and everything. I just don't, I feel like that's a sign. And his wins weren't necessarily really that dominant either. And I feel like that's a sign. I feel like it's a sign that he might not be the guy. He might not be the guy. And trust me, heavyweight division in the past year and a half, 2 years, has become really tough. Really tough. Look at number 15 right now. It's Alexander Romanov. That guy is not to be messed with. I guarantee he could be top 10 in the heavyweight division. So breaking in the top 15 is very hard. And if he wins tomorrow, he'd be on a 3-fight win streak in the UFC. And I think that would give him a pretty good resume, a good enough resume to get a ranked fight. Do I think that he deserves a ranked fight? Do I think he's on the level of a ranked fighter? I think we need to take a step back here and look at Marcos Rogerio de Lima and really see a guy who could be a top 15 fighter. Sure, 37 years old. I know. He's getting up there in age, but this is the perfect time for him. He is good on the ground, good on the feet, great heavy. I really think that he's a heavyweight that if he can put it all together in a fight and not get knocked out, not get hit with a big shot, I really think he's going to be dangerous. And that's coming from a place of deep. He's a really good. He's got one punch power, which is hard to come by. I mean, not as much in the heavyweight division, but one punch power is kind of hard to come by. But he's also got incredible jiu-jitsu skills and ground game. And I think that puts him in a league above a lot of heavyweights, because guys like Chris Daukaus, guys like Derek Lewis, they don't know how to put it all together like Marcos Rogerio de Lima. And I think that could be his advantage coming into a fight against these younger opponents like Where's Waldo over here. I think that I'm just going to call him Where's Waldo because I don't want to go through his name 1.5 million times. So Where's Waldo? He's a very young fighter, and I think that this could be a really good learning point for him to face a guy who's really well-rounded and isn't just a walk in the park, and he can kind of, I think it'll be a really good test for him to see where he's actually at in terms of top 15 competition and if he can hang with the big boys. Marcos Rogerio de Lima, I think he can handle that 10 to 15 spot right now. And I think that he might go into this fight and prove it. I think that Where's Waldo might be in a little bit of trouble tomorrow, and it might be a really big learning experience for him. And I'm going to ride with that because I really do think Marcos Rogerio de Lima is going to win tomorrow. And he's my guy. I'm riding with him. Next person. Next fight we're going to talk about, I think we're going to skip around again because I'm just a little skippy guy. Let's skip around again. Julian Erosa, you never know with the guy. He's absolutely all over the place, and I've actually never seen Fernando Padilla fight, so I don't have a really good jumping off point from there. So I really couldn't tell you if Julian Erosa is going to fumble the bag tomorrow or if he's just going to wipe the floor with this guy. I think that it could really go either way because Julian Erosa might be one of the most erratic fighters in the UFC. So we're going to jump to Rodolfo Vieira versus Cody Brundage, and this fight, it's a chef's kiss because Cody Brundage is a guy who does not take easy fights. I love Cody Brundage, and I love Dustin Jacoby, his training partner. I think that both of them are absolute killers, and I think that both of them do not give a flying fuck about who they fight. And I think that that's a really important thing to have in the UFC, because there are too many guys who pick and choose their fights based on matchups, based on this, based on that. You know who doesn't fucking do that? Cody Brundage and Dustin Jacoby. They take any fight. They take whatever is thrown at them, they take it. And I think that this is a really tough fight for Cody Brundage. It's really tough. So I don't know. Right now, I'm still even considering who I'm taking in this fight, because Rodolfo Vieira is maybe one of the best, if not the best, jiu-jitsu fighters in the UFC right now, currently. He has one of the best jiu-jitsu backgrounds in the UFC. He is incredible on the ground. It hasn't, I mean, listen, Fluffy Hernandez did sub him. I get it, but he got tired in that fight. A lot of, you know, he wasn't used to the pace of the UFC probably yet. He was probably used to just running through people. Rodolfo Vieira is a really good fighter. We saw him go back and fight that German kid, the Dustin, whatever that kid's name is. Fought him to a decision, and he looked good all 3 rounds. Really kind of dominated that whole fight. And I think that that's something I think he's been learning. Look at Chris Curtis. He didn't win the Chris Curtis fight, but he went all 3 rounds with him. I think he's still learning the game, and I think he's becoming a better fighter. Like, you get thrown in with Chris Curtis, that's a different playing field. Chris Curtis is a top 15 fighter, no matter which way you swing it. I think you put him in with any guy, even a step. Even Kelvin Gastelum, I feel like they're on the same level. Like, even though he lost to Kelvin Gastelum, they're on a pretty similar level. I don't think that anyone saw that fight and was like, Kelvin Gastelum is miles ahead of Chris Curtis. They're on a fairly similar level. And I think that Rodolfo Vieira is a step below them, but I think that he could really pick up and eat, because there's not a lot of really good jiu-jitsu fighters, and we've seen guys take over this division with good jiu-jitsu game, like Damian Maia, and I think that, or Jacare Souza. I think that there's a real case that he could be a really good fighter if he just keeps learning and picking up the MMA game the same way that he did with the jiu-jitsu game. Now, Cody Brundage, this is a guy who's a really good wrestler. He's got good ground game, and he could, and you know what? He can throw paws. He throws paws probably with Dustin Jacoby every day, and I think Dustin Jacoby is one of the better strikers in the light heavyweight division, honestly. Not in terms of power, but in terms of accuracy and in terms of volume. I think that Dustin Jacoby is a really good fighter. Cody, I go back and forth with this fight, because Cody, I've seen him fight guys like Tresean Gore and really impress me and really look good. He looked really good against Tresean Gore. Then goes in against the guy that we're going to talk about next, Michael, and he got knocked out. So it's like, where do I throw this fight? And I think that I'm going to throw this fight. I think Cody Brundage could be a little too comfortable on the ground for this fight. I think Rodolfo might want to really force that takedown, and I think Cody will kind of be okay with accepting the ground game. Actually, you know what? I take that back. I don't know if Rodolfo will force a takedown, but I know that he will want to grapple. I know for a fact he's gonna put him up against the fence and grapple the shit out of him, and I think Cody's gonna kind of accept that. And I think Cody might think, oh, I might have an advantage in the wrestling department, in the standing grappling, in the dirty boxing department. I think he does have an advantage in that department. But if he puts Rodolfo Vieira on his back, or puts him on the ground in general, you don't know what the fuck's gonna happen, because that guy is an absolute wizard in jiu-jitsu. So, in terms of this fight, I right now, as I'm sitting here, I'm gonna lean towards Rodolfo Vieira, just because I think that's the way the fight's gonna go. I think that it's not gonna be a punch-drunk striking fest. I think that Cody and Rodolfo Vieira are both gonna kind of get into that clinch, dirty boxing type area a lot of the time. They're going to clash a lot inside, and I think that at some point, it's going to go to the ground, and I think at some point, Rodolfo Vieira gets it done. I think that he will find a way to finish him. And that's saying that from a Cody Brundage fan. I'm a big Cody Brundage, big Dustin Jacoby guy, but I think that this is just a really tough matchup. Sometimes you just take really tough matchups, and you saw Dustin Jacoby take a really tough matchup in this last fight, and I think that it's going to be the same with this fight with Cody Brundage. I think this is just a really tough matchup for him that I don't think that he's necessarily prepared for on the ground. I think that it's going to be tough. I think he's a really good ground fighter, but I just don't think that. And listen, I think his striking is really good, and I think that he has that power. Look at what he did to Tresean Gore. I think that he's a very well-rounded fighter, Cody Brundage is, but I don't think he's well-rounded enough to get out of his own way, if that makes sense. I think that he's gonna be confident in his clinch game and in his dirty boxing and his pushing Rodolfo up against the fence. And I think at some point Rodolfo's just going to be like, oh, okay, you wanna grapple, you wanna put your hands on me? Well, you're gonna see why that's a problem. So I'm gonna go with Rodolfo Vieira on this one. I love Cody Brundage. I have a sneaking suspicion that Vieira is gonna absolutely. I think it's going to be, honestly, I could see a little bit of RNC action, maybe a guillotine. I don't know. I could see some kind of real good submission, maybe in like the second round area. I think Cody might find a little bit of success in the first, and I think Rodolfo will kind of figure out that the grappling that he needs to figure out by the second round, and I think he'll be able to submit him. So there you go, lock it up. Second round submission, Rodolfo Vieira. Now, co-main, Brazil versus, I think, Poland. Is that one of them? Both of these guys' names. You know what? It's battle of the motherfucking names. I'm going to feel like Brendan Schaub out here trying to pronounce these names, so I'm just going to call them Cal and McCall, because I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce both of their first names. I don't know where I'm going to go with this fight. I haven't really thought about it. I haven't necessarily considered it to a great extent. But Cal, if he wins this fight, actually both of them, if they win this fight, they're going to get a big top 15 fight, especially if they do it in an important fashion. So I think that you're going to see a little bit of pushing of the pace in this fight. And I think that favors McCall a bit. You saw how his power translated when he knocked out Cody Brundage. Let me just make sure that I'm not just absolutely spouting bullshit. As you can probably tell, I'm not editing this because I have actually zero clue how to do any sort of technology-based anything. Just honestly figuring out how to make a YouTube video was incredibly difficult for me, so back to what I'm speaking about. I really think that McCall's got some insane power, and I think that Cal is in a position where he is assuming he can run through the division. It's kind of like a Roman Dolidze thing in different ways. Because Roman Dolidze, he started off struggling, and then he went on kind of a tear, and then he got to Marvin Vettori, and then it was kind of a so, which is kind of where I'm at with Cal. I think that he didn't really impress me in his Contender Series fight, if I remember. I think it was a decision. Again, my brain is actually scrambled eggs. It's pretty late, and I just worked a whole shift at the bar, so I could be lying, but I'm pretty sure I remember him fighting to a decision and kind of having a lackluster fight in his Dana White Contender Series fight. I know in his other fights he's looked really good and beat a lot of tough guys. Let me just run through some of the guys he's fought and beat. Yeah, Mahmoud Muradov is a fucking killer. I'm a big Mahmoud guy. Armin Petrosian, he's solid too. Holy shit. Yeah. I mean, I guess he's just like the Russians' biggest enemy, I guess. But either way, I'm a big Mahmoud guy, and Mahmoud lost to him. I think I remember that fight. I think he took him down a lot and really gave him the business. I think McCall has a bit of a problem being on his back. So I could see that being a problem. But I could also see it being a problem if Cal wants to stay on his feet. But I think Cal is a smart enough fighter to I think he's a smart enough fighter to understand his role in a fight. I think he can game plan. If he's getting hit with some heavy shots, he'll be like, okay, I think I have the wrestling advantage. Okay, I think I have the grappling advantage. And really put McCall here on his ass. So, or Michal, what? These guys, like, can they just, like, give me, like, a nickname or something that I can use? I don't even know what their nicknames are there. I mean, can they give me, like, something to use? Like, at least, Where's Waldo over there gave me a little bit of a shortened version that I could use. I'm going to go with Call on this one. I think that his wrestling is going to be the difference maker, honestly. I really do. I think that and his fight IQ, I think it's going to be the difference maker. I think, obviously, Michal, whatever his name is, has been in the UFC a really long time. I'm going to call him the Polish Cat. The Polish Cat has been there for a while. He's been in there. He's been in light heavyweight. He's been in middleweight. So, and he's fought about a gazillion times in the UFC. So I don't think that he's gonna falter in terms of like the power that Cal presents, or being tired, or things like that. Like things that younger fighters might do, inexperienced fighters might do, like gassing out and getting wobbled by shots and not knowing how to handle it. But I think that Cal is a really solid grappler, and I think that if he puts the Polish Cat in his ass, I really don't see a way that there's I don't especially on his back, I just don't see a whole lot of him getting up. And I think it's going to go to a decision, and I think Cal will win. And I think that he'll win just because it's going to be hard for the Polish Cat to get off of his back. I think if Cal puts him there, I really do think it's going to be tough for him to get off his back. So, which brings us to the main event, 5-round main event, which is massive. Song Yadong versus Ricky Simon. I guess it's not really that massive, but there's a pay-per-view fight next weekend. Aljamain Sterling, Henry Cejudo. I'm going to be at the fight because I'm cool as hell and rich, I guess. No, I'm not rich. I just told you I was working at the bar, so you know that's not true. But they're fighting in the bantamweight division, which is a stacked motherfucking division. And I think that there's gonna this is gonna be so tough because Ricky Simon, his grappling is tough. He's got some tough ass grappling, and it's not really his grappling that's tough. It's his takedown ability. He can just dunk dudes on his head because of how strong he is, and he's really strong. Powerful shots, powerful takedowns, and I think that he might be one of the stronger fighters in the bantamweight division. But if you consider Ricky Simon the strongest fighter in the bantamweight division, you would have to put Song Yadong equal or right behind him, because Song Yadong has some power that is unlike anything the bantamweight division has ever seen. The way he's finished guys like Marlon Moraes, the way that he has just that sticky knockout power with his punches. Like, he's such a slick striker that, and it's not even a slick striker, he just times his power shots so beautifully. It's like an art form. Guy, I mean, listen, both of these guys I don't think are beating guys Obviously, Song Yadong lost to Corey Sandhagen, but I think that those levels of gentlemen are going to be the type that cause Ricky Simon and Song Yadong a lot of trouble. I think that even whoever wins this fight, I don't think that either of them will be top 3 in the bantamweight division. I don't want to say top 5 because I think that Song Yadong could be 5. I think Ricky Simon could be 5 because I could see either of them putting up a good fight with Chito Vera, or there's some guys in the division that I think that would be a good matchup for. And obviously, Song Yadong did tie Chito, even though I think it was a Chito win, but it was a tie. So, but back to the fight at hand. I think that we should really look at the experience of Song Yadong and not take that for granted. He's fought a murderous row of guys. Like I said, Chito and Corey Sandhagen alone should tell you that he's fought a murderous row of guys, and he's done his due of fighting and working his way up the top 15. Not that Ricky Simon hasn't, at all. But I think that Song Yadong, he's a bit, it's tough because I think Song Yadong is a little bit more gritty. I like Song Yadong, and I'm pretty sure he's a team alpha male fighter. And I seem to remember Uriah Faber absolutely knocking the chin off of Ricky Simon for his first KO of his career. So I think there might be a knockout in this fight, and I think Song Yadong might take Ricky Simon's head. Ricky Simon, he's real confident in his grappling ability, in his strength, in his power. He's real confident in it. He's going to be fighting a guy who legitimately has one-punch power. I've seen Ricky Simon grapple and fight. I've seen him take a guy down 11 times in a fight and still, I remember he fought Ray Borg. And he took Ray Borg down 8 times in that fight. But Ray Borg, on the feet, was kind of chipping him away. Really, the only times that Ricky Simon was having any success was when he was throwing Ray Borg around the octagon, because Ray Borg was half the size of Ricky Simon. So, I'm riding with Song Yadong. I think that it's a good fight for him to prove that he belongs in that middle tier of the bantamweight division. And I think even if he wins this fight, I think he's still going to have to fight back in the division. I think he'll still have to fight a guy I'm trying to think who he could fight if he won this fight. Off the top of my head, it's tough because Jose Aldo retired. Here, let me just look at the rankings real quick. I don't know why I'm acting like I can't just look this up on my computer. I know, this editing process would be, super important, essential to these videos so that you guys didn't have to watch me just, Googling shit. I don't know how to do that stuff, though, so if someone wants to teach me or something, that would be cool. Oh, Rob Font or Peter Yan. If he wins this fight, I would be totally down to see either of those fights. Fuck. Pedro Munoz. Oh my god, there's a ton of great fights for either of these guys if they win or lose. Adrian Yanez, Umar Nurmagomedov. Holy shit, there's a lot of fights out there. I mean, Umar Nurmagomedov, you don't want anybody, and nobody wants to fight that fight. Nobody wants to fight that guy, so. But a Pedro Munoz fight, win or lose, I think either of these guys match up with Pedro Munoz really well. Win or lose, Rob Font. I'd love to see either of those guys fight. I mean, win or lose. I think the thing is with this fight, if they both fight to a decision, this doesn't really put them, and it's a close decision, this doesn't really put them back too much because they're not too far in the rankings as it is. They're 10-8. So if they fight to a close decision, Song might be able to fight a guy put Chito again. Chito versus Song too. There's a lot of fights to make in this bantamweight division, especially since it's so top heavy and so many guys want to fight for the title. You have a real opportunity here to either make a star in Ricky Simon or start building a star in Ricky Simon and give him a real big top 5 fight. Or you have an opportunity to have some great battles with Song Yadong and Cheeto, and Song Yadong and Pedro Munoz, or Song Yadong and who was the other guy I mentioned? Rob Font. Like, I would love to see any of those fights. So I think that this is kind of a win-win for the UFC if this fight goes to a decision, especially. If it doesn't, then I think the best alternative for the UFC would be for Ricky Simon to knock out or submit Song Yadong, because I think that would, like, jumpstart him, give him an opportunity to fight a guy like Cheeto. If he won, I think he would fight a guy like Cheeto, and I think that would give him an opportunity, you know, to keep building it up. And I think that even with the loss there, Song Yadong would still be able to fight Rob Font, would still be able to fight Pedro Munoz, any of these guys, and I think that would be an incredible fight. But I think Song Yadong takes this one because I think Ricky Simon is too focused on his strength and he relies too much on it, and I think that that's going to be a downfall. I really think that Ricky Simon is kind of being pushed into a position that he's not ready for. I hate to say it, but I really do. I think that he's not ready for a 5-round fight. Especially, can you imagine a guy, he took Ray Borg down like 8 times in a 3-round fight. How many times? There's no way he's going to be able to pick up Song Yadong and throw him on his head like that many times and hold him down for that long. And if he does, then he deserves the Cheeto fight. Then he deserves a big fight like that, because that's impressive. But I really think that Song Yadong is gonna punish him on the feet, punish him bad on the feet. I really do. And I think you could really see a Song Yadong knockout here, maybe in like the 3rd round or the 4th round. I think that he's gonna really put some real damage on Ricky Simon on the feet, because I don't think Ricky Simon matches up well on the feet with a Song Yadong at all, unless he absolutely flatlines him and connects it with a really good punch. But I really do doubt that happens, because Song Yadong is a tough motherfucker. So yeah, there's your UFC fight night, yada yada yada, whatever it is. I don't even know. Song Yadong versus Ricky Simon or Ricky Simone. You know, I'm really bad with names. Like, you could really call me Brendan Schaub out here with these names. Like, if you guys want to, like, chirp me about it, I don't give a fuck. You can. I don't care. I'm really happy that the Giants got Jalen Hyatt tonight. Tomorrow we can discuss, or tomorrow or the next day or whenever I decide to make another YouTube video, we can discuss what's currently happening in the One Piece world. Lots are happening in the One Piece world, so that's definitely something that we are going to need to talk about soon, especially since no break next week in chapters. Ode is really blessing us with hopefully an Egghead chapter. I haven't seen an Egghead chapter, and I think it's been like 4 chapters since the last Egghead chapter, but we do need to hear what Sabo has to say. I want to hear what Sabo has to say. That's really important. So hopefully we start off with a little bit of Sabo, sprinkle in a little bit of Egghead, maybe sprinkle in a little bit of Garp versus Kuzan. I don't know. We'll see what happens. There's a lot going on in One Piece right now to discuss, so but yeah, we can discuss that later, I guess, because this seems to be the end of the video. I'm not sure how I'm going to end these things yet, so I'm just going to, like, high-five the camera and just, I'll see you guys, hopefully tomorrow or sometime soon in the future.